Hi, folks. The first edition of 2021 Reactive Online Meetup is here, and we are very excited that you made a decision to join us today. In the next 60 to 70 minutes, we will try to broaden your views regarding the front-end skills with two talks. Firstly, Jakub will talk about connecting optional data into strongly typed components using TypeScript, and our main dev talk will be by Samuel Snopko, who will take it really fast and furious, going headless with Next.js. Just to introduce myself, my name is Andy, and I'm from Vacuum Labs, which is a company that stays behind the original ReactiveConf back in 2015. Vacuum Labs focuses on providing flexible and reliable software engineers to clients all over the world and help them build various fintech or blockchain projects and products. Other than that, we can probably start. So let's welcome our first speaker, Jakub. How are you doing? Are you here?
Hey guys. Hey. I'm doing well. So I think we can just jump into it and start with the first talk.
Yeah. So stage is yours. Please share your screen, and we can start.
All right, folks. Screen seems to be started. So without further ado, let me start the presentation. No, you are not wrong here. My name is Jakub, and this was an introduction because the whole presentation gonna be like in the Star Wars theme. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so welcome again. And I'll tell you a story about how we actually started adopting TypeScript in our JavaScript code base. And with like within a few weeks, we actually encountered the first problem, and that was actually about how to strictly type our components and get the data to the Redux. In order to basically understand our problem or what we were facing or what you might be facing in the application, let's demonstrate it on a very simple application from the Star Wars theme. Imagine that we have simple application that is able to somehow render that our character from Star Wars, as over here, the Luke Skywalker, is coming from a planet called Tatooine. In order to do so, we will need some kind of data structure, which is usually in database referenced and represented by some kind of entities, where we have a planet entity, which has some kind of unique identifier and the name of it. So this would be Tatooine here. And the character. So as well, we will have some kind of unique identifier and also the name of the character. And there is some kind of relation between them. Over here, we say that character can have only one planet as a home planet, but one planet can host multiple characters. This is done usually by referencing the unique identifier on the character entity. So we will be referencing the ID. How it will look like in a JSON structure is basically that the character, which is over here, will have some kind of reference and the ID will be its property. And we can find somewhere else in database or in a Redux state that this entity is over here referenced by this ID and its name is actually Tatooine. So by the reference, we are able to retrieve some properties of the entity. In order to render in our sample application some data, we will also need some components. Let's say we will have a character representing the Luke Skywalker here, and also a planet representing the planet name. And as you can see, this will not work out of the box without connection over the Redux. So we are referencing all data only by passing the ID over here and let the connect function to do the work and retrieve the name of the planet from the state somehow. The way how it is done is actually by some kind of selectors. We can use reselect, or actually Redux toolkit has the reselect bundled inside. So this works basically that we will pass the ID to the selector. It will find the planet by the ID, and from that entity, it will get us the property. So basically, just by passing the ID, we can find the entire entity and its properties. It's very convenient because we are able to retrieve whatever data. It's very flexible. So for future, if we want to display somehow differently the name of the planet based on its type or something like that, we are able to do it easily. But the problem begins over here when we start to typing the connect function into TypeScript, and we will get sooner or later into error, which is, to be honest, not very readable. So let's help ourselves, and I'll explain a little bit what it actually means. Over here, we can see that undefined is actually not assignable to like type string, where the string is coming from our map state to props interface, which we need to pass into the component itself. But the string and undefined is coming from the get planet name. How this can happen when we have the reference by ID? It's actually not possible to satisfy this via TypeScript, that we are passing a correct or valid ID. Imagine that you will send invalid ID over there, and in this case, non-entity will be found. So this will result in undefined value. What can be the solutions for this problem? Well, there is one, which is an easy fix, but not very suitable for all types or all values, because let's be honest, like what is the default value of any planet in the Star Wars universe? There is none, right? So we can use the default fallback like this. It will basically like satisfy the types, but we are screwed because we don't know about it. So we have no potential lock over it. And we don't actually know that the application is somehow broken, and it shouldn't be. The second option is always make the component properties optional. But in this case, we will end up in defining all the properties optional. And what is even like worse, that the component is actually not strongly typed, because we will end up with all the optional properties, and we will need to handle them correctly at each single point. So this wasn't actually a valid solution for us as well. So we think a little bit more, and we were actually thinking that we will force the types to be present there. So you can satisfy it either in selector or connect, and basically say, I as developer am in charge of the types here, and I'm pretty sure that the planet gonna be there. But to be honest, we are lying ourselves, and sooner or later, this will bring application crash and will make our users angry, and our time over debugging this will be like not well spent. The error in the like nice case where we have some developer playground gonna be something meaningful like this or this, but in the production application, it will just crash the application and the user will end up with a blank screen. Here it comes to our solution, which we came up with. And in order to understand it, we will need to know a little bit about TypeScript and what the type guard is. Imagine that you have basically two very similar types, and those types are different only by some fields. So let's say orders and email. And we have a function that can return a general user. And the user, let's say Alice, is our customer, and Bob is our admin. And we need to show and somehow differentiate in a code what Bob or Alice is actually from the type definition. In order to do so, we can use this type guard, which is basically only a function which says to us and to TypeScript that the user, which is passed here as argument, is actually admin or customer. And we are able to safely touch the email field or the orders field here. Here we go into the solution we came up with. It's super simple, and in simplicity is the beauty, right? So the first arguments are basically completely the same interface as the connect function. We are just passing the same arguments into the connect, but we are wrapping our component with a new high order component, which is actually receiving few more arguments. The first one is a component as we are used to from the standard connect functions from Redux. The second one is mandatory and is a type guard. So this type guard actually tell us whether the props that has been passed into the component are valid for the component. And we have also some kind of error component, which we will display instead in case the props are not satisfied. As you can see here, in case the type guard is not actually satisfied, we are able to create some kind of error, log it, and over here, I don't mean like console error log it, but you can, with the Redux tank, for example, pass it into your application logs or Sentry or whatever, and we are rendering our error component. It can be null, it can be whatever error we can display to the user, so he can actually understand that there's something wrong. We are working on fixing it, and he doesn't need to worry about and refresh the application like hell to fix it from his side. So it is like nice for the user behavior. As a real life example how this is used, we can see that the partial connect hasn't actually been changed, except that we are using different name of the function. And in the final definition or in the final return function, we are passing the type guard, which defines whether the name of the planet is actually there. What will happen in a state where we can or we want to display 3 characters, and as you can see over here, our Darth Vader doesn't have a planet because he is referenced by, or his home planet is referenced by ID, which doesn't exist in our store. We will render the null there. And what is the most critical thing here, we will know about it because our Sentry can accept or will know about it in the logs. So we have very nice error that the planet cannot be rendered because the prop types doesn't match. And the props that has been passed there are the existing ID, but non-existing name. So we are way closer to debugging. The only disadvantage of this approach is that it's actually not automated. We don't have any kind of like runtime type checks, but in future, we are looking into it to automate it and don't even need to write the single type guard for the components. That's actually it for me. And currently we are thinking about open sourcing the solution. So check out and follow our Twitter accounts, mine and Mews Devs, and also check the blog where we will write about it, and there will be for sure some kind of cookbook when we announce it publicly. Thank you very much for your attention, and now I guess there is some time for your questions.
Absolutely correct. Thank you for your talk. I will check whether there are some questions, and as I see, there is one from Marcel. Why not just show loader and initiate request to server?
It's actually definitely possible. One thing, on the other hand, is that what if the structure in database is actually broken? So you will have some kind of reference even in the database, and the problem doesn't need to be on front-end side. So you will basically crash the application because the backend is incorrect. In this case, you can render some kind of like error. Hey, there is an error, and we are working on fixing it. So you will be able to track it down and even fix the data in the database.
Sure. That seems quite natural. I would probably just add that maybe in some cases, for example, when there is a lot of data, you do not want to have everything loaded beforehand. So probably your ID is just absolutely enough. And then you can check your Redux state. Is the data already there? If not, then I will try to load it, etc. And that probably can be solved by that higher order component with some extended version of it for sure as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like Marcel is also proposing that we can use error boundary for this one, and that's also correct. But in this case, like it just brings you a little bit closer to debugging. So basically, you will know a little bit closer where the problem lies.
Yes, and to be honest, the error boundaries they can be also put into some higher order component, and you can wrap every component with error boundary. But I found that quite impractical. Yeah, but it can be solved in a really similar fashion with error boundary as well. Yeah, so that's all from the Q&A. Thank you, Jacob. And now we will move to our second talk by Samuel.
Thank you very much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the talk.
Thank you. Samuel, hi.
Hi.
Are you here?
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm great. How about you?
Thank you very much. Good. I hope everybody's doing good.
Seems like it. So we are really excited for your talk. So stage is yours. Start sharing your screen, and you can start.
So one more time, hi everybody. I'm Samuel, and I will be talking usually fast and furious, but today I have a little bit more time, so it will be not so fast and furious, and we will be talking, or I will be talking about going headless with Next.js, or as it correctly, it should be written, and just a Next is the name of the framework built on the Vue, which is also, like, if you are not familiar with the Next, then it's very similar to the Next.js from the React and the Vercel team. So my name is Samuel Snopko. I'm currently working as a head of developer relationship, or basically responsible for developer relationship at Storyblok. I was working a long time ago, not a long time, but for some time, as a front-end or like basically creating all that various fancy front ends for various companies, and they all wanted to have it very fancy. So basically, I ended up as a design ops, a bridge between the developers and the designers. And then I looked for some frameworks, and I didn't choose a React word and Next.js, but I went for the Next. And then also later, I was looking for a better CMS, like the option how to handle my data, because I wasn't happy with all the traditional CMSs I was using that time. And then I found out this Storyblok. And that was like 3 years ago. And somehow the last year I joined the company. In the meantime, I'm also like a speaker and community believer. So basically helping to create some other meetups and also like talk on different stuff. I don't have a lot of slides. So basically this is almost like this last slide I have. So we will be doing some live coding. And what we will be doing today, it's you can see the final stage at Storyblok/talk blazing fast Next.js. And basically we are going to create from scratch a Next.js application, which will be a deployment ready, I would say, and connected to the Headless CMS, in this case Storyblok, as you can guess. And I will try to do it in under 30 minutes. So how you should start if you are like totally new with Next is that the easiest and the fastest way basically to start with Next is just like create use the Next app, which is provided by the Next team. It's a awesome thing that you don't have to do anything else. Just basically go for yarn, create Next app, a blazingly fast showcase. So the blazingly fast showcase is here, of course, the name of the project. Then it gets you to the guide where you will set up your project, and you can choose from many options. I'm going for JavaScript in this case, still keeping with yarn. Even the 9 p.m. It's the last time I heard it's a little bit faster. I'm usually using a Tailwind CSS at the moment. I like it a lot. I can encourage you to try it if you didn't try it and didn't have a chance still. In this case,
may I jump in? If you are changing your slides, it's not appearing, at least not on my screen. So it's probably froze, or it may be the case.
So what do you see right now? Which slide?
I see slide with live coding and muscle
okay.
arm emoji.
Okay, cool. So give me 2 minutes. I will reconnect. I have just to stop my Zoom, and I will be reconnecting back in like a few seconds. So the start you didn't see is basically I created my Next application by using the Next app. So it's yarn create Next app, and then you just add your basically your name of your project. At this moment, it will set your project where I choose the name. I choose JavaScript as the programming language. At the moment, you could go also for TypeScript. It's easier, a little bit faster for me to go for JavaScript at the moment. The package manager, I choose the yarn. I went for the Tailwind CSS. There's like option like 12 different UI frameworks you can use. And at the moment, I'm choosing the Next.js module. So I'm not going to choose any of these, even though you could use sometimes Axios or like even the PVA, etc. So the linking tools is also like preset up by the Next team, but I'm not going to choose any of them at the moment and not doing the testing for the talk. We will be doing server-side rendering or server-side generated app. At the end of the day, it's up to you how you will basically deploy your project, but I would go for definitely the universal application. And then as the deployment, I would go for something like Vercel and Netlify, so it will be like static, so Jamstack hosting. And as I am using the VS Code, then there's a JSON config recommended. This is just the GitHub name and the Git. And now it would take some time to basically build my project, but I already like cheated and I prepared. So this is what you would get at the beginning and after all these steps. As you can see, I run the yarn dev and my my Next already running. And you can see also like some screen on the localhost. So let's check it out. So localhost 2000, and here's the nice welcome screen built by Next team for you, where you can go to documentation, check the GitHub and all the packages. They have like tons of great stuff around the Next. So, okay, I set up my project, it's Next, and this is basically something what you could theoretically deploy to Vercel, Netlify, and or your own servers, and it's working. That's great. But we need to set up also like something for the for our content editors who are not technically like the best. Like the people who going to code everything or to the markdown or other stuff. So what you can use something like a Storyblok, which is a headless CMS, and you maybe heard about the headless lately because it's getting more and more popular. And after the registration, it's in this cloud service, so which is like service as software as a service. You will get to the screen like this where you can manage your project and you can create a new space. In the Storyblok, we called spaces basically a project. So it's at some hub where you will be managing your content. As you can see on the left side, I have like many demo projects, but now we are going to create like one from scratch. So we are creating just a new space. We are not going to play with demo, and I'm not going to duplicate anything. I'm really creating everything from scratch. So let's give it a name and let's create a new space. At the moment, we will be skipping the the step-by-step guide because I'm your guide today, and I would like to also add one more note. Everything you see here will be probably changing following like 2-3 months as we are working also on new UI. And what do you see? So you see basically your project or your space. And here we are like at the moment in the context section. So this is what your content editor usually would see if they want to change some stuff on your website application or even like configuration of the automobile. So we have like different use cases. You don't have to be thinking about this only as about like something like building the website. You're managing content. So here, this is the story which represents the home, and this is like pre-created by us by Storyblok, but you can delete it freely like if you want. At the moment, I can click on it and open a visual editor, which is like one of the, like I think one of the best features we have. And the visual editor is like the powerful here is that here in the middle you should see right now your website. At the moment we don't see our website, but we already can play the schema with the project. So here on the right side you can see the content editor. At the moment there is like some page which has a body and there's a teaser grid. We can add a new block, so I can get added a teaser, which is like a teaser, and I can also like move the components here. And even if I would like to go like focus, because this is not working at the moment, so as we didn't set up it, we can hide the visual editing part and just focus on the form, which is like as usually is consumed the headless CMS part. So this is like what you see. Then this is already working, as I said, so we can save, and you would see like new version. But this also like create a new JSON, and this is like where the developers come to handy, that you and we developers are basically consuming this JSON files using the REST API or the GraphQL to create a website. So render the front end, which I will be doing in the moment in the next. So we can see there was a draft JSON, and at the moment I have also some published JSON, which I didn't publish, so I don't have any JSON at the moment. So let's hit the publish, and then let's see what's here. And one more time, my plugin did the trigger. So here you can see like basically I have a body. So I have a story which is named home, and there's a body which contains the different components, and the component here is the teaser with a headline hello world. Okay, that's pretty easy, simple, and straightforward. So we created just at the moment our content. We can already consume it by the Next.js application here, but we still didn't connect the Next.js here with our content. So we still see here in the visual editor like nothing. So let's do something with that. So what you should do right now is basically you can install the package called Storyblock Next, and all what is do is like create a connection between the Storyblock and Next. We are taking care basically of this for you. So what's now? I just jump to the Next config. So it's super easy and fast. And here I a little bit cheated because I am not good in typing, so I do a lot of typos. So I just commented a lot of code. And here you can see that I expect here some access token. So in the Storyblock, in the Next, I installed a Storyblock Next module, and here I should add my token to like connect them together. So let's jump back, and here use this token, which you can use a draft token. But of course, like if you would go like publish version, then you could like create a new public token access level, and then get only the token, the content that is already published. But let's jump back to the code, like add here my token, and let's start my project. So we are on dev. And we should see after a few seconds, and after the bundling here also on the localhost, let's check out the localhost, what's happening here. It takes a few seconds because it's bundling a new packages together, but the hot reel is much faster usually, and also like this usually take a little bit more longer on the calls. I don't know why. It's probably my internet connection is not so fast. So here everything is working great, and we don't have any error. So we kind of connected the Storyblock with the Next, but still I don't see any error. And the reason is here, it's very simple. Here in the URL, which is like in this case it's iframe, you can see like here should be our URL, and our URL is a localhost. So let's copy paste the localhost URL, and let's jump back to the space settings and change the default environment we are working on. So we are working on the localhost default. But if you need a multiple preview developers preview URLs, you can go also like something like a production and add here like your URLs and create like version, netlify, and those parts like for different UIs. You can have even like one preview URL for the React application and another for the Next.js or Vue.js application. So everything is possible in here in this setup kind of. So let's go back to the home and see what's changed after I edited it. And then we see a progress, we have an error. And this time the error is a good thing. And that's from various places or reasons. And this is the error coming from the Next.js, as you can see in the left bottom corner. So what is the problem here is that we are asking to render some slug called home on the localhost. If you know at least something about the Next, you would know that there is a pages folder, which is very similar also in the Next.js. And I didn't define here any route for the home. So I don't have a home.view here. I don't have any dynamic file here that would like map to the home, or any. I didn't define any router to like which would tell me like what should happen if I get the home, or I am asked for home. So I'm here only index. So I could route the router, or I could create like new home folder, a file here, or I have a little bit different hack here, that I can also tell my visual editor here in Storyblock that I want to render my home page, of course, on the index page, because it's the slug here. In this case, this home is only used to get the data that I know that I am getting the data from home. And as I change the real path to the slash, I can already like preview my localhost directly in the Storyblock, so I don't need this step anymore. So cool. But I still don't see my data here. I did and created some data, but I don't see them on the in the visual editor, and our content editor still cannot do anything with that. So what about that? So Storyblock is built on the atomic design, basically. So we like the atoms, we like the components-based approach, and we like the modern frameworks, as the Vue.js, React, and all those frameworks are building basically on that you are able to build a small pieces together, and using those small pieces, you are building the bigger sections or molecules, organism pages, and everything together, and you can combine it freely as you need. And it's the same approach we took in Storyblock, and you can create like any number of the components you need and define them into two types. So one of the types is, of course, the content types. So the content types are used to create stories in the Storyblock. So here in the content, if I go to create a new story, then I am changing my content type. So in this case, I have a page, but this usually is something like a article page, or could be also author. It doesn't have to be always something that's represented by visual page. It can be something that is the data are consumed on other pages. And then there are a second type of the components, and in this case it's called a nestable components. And these nestable components can be nested in other components, so it can be so deep as you need. So the chain can be really long. You can go like component in component in component in component as much as you need. And from these components, we internet call them blocks. So basically, you are building the blocks of your websites or your pages or your stories. And this is also like why the Storyblock is kind of called Storyblock. So you are building stories and blocks, and to get a Storyblock. So what are they? How they look like? So here, the page is pretty simple. I just define here only one attribute, and I call it body. And then the type of this attribute I call the blocks. And this means basically that I can use here inside any nestable component, and so it's pretty simple. I didn't define any other rules, so I can do that. I can use all of my nestable components here. Then I have a feature where at the moment, to keep it simple, I define only the name, and this is the type text. And the same here, and with the teaser, I just created the headline attribute and also added like type text with no rules, additional rules. And then I have a grid where I basically added also like the columns with type blocks. And here I would like to like also change the rules for this component and whitelist only the features that I am not allowed to add any other components inside this grid. So I did this. So how does it look like here in the content is that if I open here and you see here the grid, I can add only other features. I'm not allowed to now like choose from different components. And also you can see that at the end of in the JSON. So here in the JSON, you see that I am using teaser, and the teaser has this headline, and this headline is only text. So I had set up everything on the part of the Storyblock, but I didn't do that in the next, which would be a very similar also in the React world. So, but I already prepared myself. So here, if I open the components, you can see that I have a different components for exactly the same components, more or less, than I had in my project in Storyblock. So here you can see a teaser, which basically will expect some props, and using these props, we'll get some block data, type objects required, and then I'm just rendering some HTML. This still this Vue 2 is by the way, there's already Vue 3, but Nux is still written in Vue 2, and then the next 3 will be coming soon, if you are like the Vue expert. But anyway, back to the code. So the H2 here, I'm just writing my headline with a little bit styling of the from tailwind. The same thing I'm basically going to do with feature, rendering my blog name into the H2. Here is a special thing that you can also notice already on the teaser, that I am using vEditable. This was also installed by the Storyblock next thing. And this is how we enable our real-time editing. So stay tuned for it. You will see in a moment how powerful it is. The grid here, it's at a moment also like getting the same principle, just getting the data through the prop called block, and then I'm looping through all my columns here that I defined here. So if I go here into the home to show you that one more time, and I would go to grid, grid here, then you see that here in the grid, I have this array of columns. So I'm looping through this array and just rendering basically my using the dynamic component, the components that are inserted inside. So in this case, this is something which is in Vue.js, a default dynamic component, and I can tell him like, hey, render the component which is equal to block.component, and block.component is this feature basically at the moment. And the feature, of course, as I already showed you, is this. So this will be rendered. And the last thing is the page, which also do very similar thing to the grid, just looping through the block.body and render all the components that it's getting here instead of this dynamic component. Great. So at the moment, I just need to register these components. Do it all the way. So let's do this. Let's look if everything is restarted. I think it was quite fast, so it could be done. And if I do a reload, I don't see anything. So it's still, I didn't connect it. And the reason why I don't see any change here is that because I still didn't tell the Next.js how to load the data from the storybook. Basically, I didn't fetch any data. So let's do the last step. We need to get those data. And the data we are going to get through the pages. So here, I just keep it in the index.js, all the code. But basically, I would also can like abstract that outside to standalone JavaScript file and reuse it on many places. First of all, I'm going to remove my HTML, which was provided by the Next team. So let's remove this part and uncomment my part. So this is like the section which always will end it to the page. So this is like where we will decide what kind of page we would like to render in the index. So here, you see story.content.component would return that page. Then we don't need the logo anymore because we are not going to render the logo of the Next anymore. Also, I am going to uncomment this part, which will load the data and remove all the style. Oh, sorry, here. So let's remove the style. And as we are using Tailwind, then we don't need the styling. So what we are doing here, we are familiar a little bit with Vue.js. Then I'm just creating like, this is just dummy content. So like, hey, expect some story with empty content. And then using the asynchronous data, I'm going to load my data from Storyblock. I installed the Storyblock API using the Storyblock Next package that I installed at the beginning. And now I can statically ask for cdn_stories.home. So there is the name of my Slack or of my story. In this moment, I'm just going to always ask for the home and I always ask for the draft version. But in like production project, you would do something like, okay, I need to check out if I'm like in the draft version or I'm needing a published version according to the point that I'm in the development environment or I'm in production environment, for example. And the same thing goes for Slack. You can like dynamically find from their context what Slack you would like to ask for. So here, for example, I'm asking for home. But if this would be like article page number 1, then you will be asking for article number 1. So cool. That's straightforward. Just get the data. Okay, and then the data will be at the end replaced here in the storybook. So the stories will be replaced by the real data. Okay, what's happening here? Does everything run correctly, or did I forget something too? We should see here already something. And the reason why we don't see it, we will see in a moment. Maybe it's just the next. Or did I forget something to uncomment? Ah, yes, I forgot something uncomment. In the next config, of course, I forgot to also to uncomment my plugin where I register all my components. So let's register the components really. So this component.js file where I register or import all my components, I need to also tailor to the next config, of course. So now it should work and we should see soon here something. So we see our website. And at the moment, we see just the Hello World website. So it's very easy, but we also see some outline. And this outline is created by the Storyblock bridge, which I already mentioned a few times. And this is the V editable in the components. As you can see now, I can click on the website and on the right-hand side, it's basically also changing the content I'm doing. Even much cooler is like you can do something like it. Isn't this cool? And I can hit save, and basically the website will reload, and I see like updated content. This is quite cool, I would say, but I think as we are doing something with Vue.js and the Next.js, we can do even better. And this save, basically, as I hit here the save, or if I would hit the publish, is triggering like the publish or change event, and then I'm asking Next.js like, hey, can you reload the page? but I could do that also like for the input event. So here in the story block bridge, I am just going to catch and check it for the input events. And if the input event is happening, I'm going to replace my story here, which I first loaded, with the content which I will get from the event. So how does this exactly look? And what is the final version is like, this is really cool. That basically I have like real-time editing experience. So I can like now change the stuff, I can go to grid, I can copy everything and add all that stuff. This is something what I think is so hugely important for the content editors, that they can work and see what they are creating without any basically hitting the save and redeploying or like checking to having the local host. You can do this on the Vercel Netlify. So they can like preview it on the mobile or on the iPad. And if the on the mobile is here, for example, doesn't work it, like they can go delete it. Okay, remove this part. So let's make this is really cool on the first, remove the last part. And then if they are really happy with the content, they should have the save. And the reason why they should have the save after that is that because they are not polluting, of course, the versioning system of the system. So they don't have to like always hit the save to see the new version of the website. Okay, but this is very, very simple. And I wanted to show you like how to create like something like a proper start of the website where we will be featuring some articles. So let's show how complicated it is to create like something new with it. So I'm going to create very quickly just feature articles on the homepage, and that's it. And then will be the Q&A. So let's add here an article component. So article, and that will be a content type in this case. And and here I am going to add, give me a sec, I'm just looking into my notes, how to call hero image will be the first one, then it will be a title, then I want to have an intro, of course, and which is, I already did the typo, see, author, and also a prose where I will write my text for an article. So let's rename this to an intro. Also, and I need to update the schema. So the hero image should be probably an image and not the text. So I'm going to choose assets and an image, right? The title, I'm quite happy that it's text. I would just require it at the moment. Then the intro, which I a little bit did wrong. I need to update the name one more time. Intro. Save, and the intro I would like to have it as a longer text, so text area, but without any possibilities like doing the bold and that kind of stuff, because I would have a somehow how to render it in my website. Then the authors, there are like many solutions how to do authors. You can like load the external API or have like other stories for the authors, but I would go for the simplest one. So the single option and just name them here. So I would be the one author. And this will be basically a drop down, and Dominic will be the second author. And this is like key value, basically JSON for me. And then the last one is the prose, where I would like to use rich text editor at the moment, or Markdown. It's up to you usually, but let's do a rich text editor where I'm not going to customize the toolbar. So I have basically created my article schema. And at this moment, I don't render. I don't have like article here in the story, in the next project. But I would like to, I can already tell my content editors or the article writers that they can create new articles. So I would just like create for them a folder, call that folder articles, tell that basically the content I type, they are going to create this article and save it. So then they can go to the article folder and create new articles. So article 1, and basically like save it. Of course, there is no visual preview for that, as I didn't create that. So then you can we can just like hide it, and they can start like creating the stuff. So for example, they can add some pictures. So let's add here a picture, and wait a second. So we will create just very quickly 3 articles that we have something to preview, and I copied some text from the next website. So here, of course, we would like write our text, but let's save it. Then let's go back and duplicate. So copy, call it number 2 at the moment. And I will just replace the image. So here I will just convert this image number 2. And this will be a new headline. Okay, let's keep that and then change this. And the last article very quickly. Let's change it to 3. Number 3, and then also the image number 3. So, okay, and that's my reactive rocks, and that will be me. Great, I can save it. Go back. Let's publish all those articles just to show that how I would publish it very quickly. And now I would like to feature them on the homepage. So basically here on the homepage, I would like to feature them here in this area. But I don't have a component for that. So what I have to do, create a component. So very quickly, let's create a new component. I hope I'm not too fast already. Featured articles. It will be nestable, of course. I'm going to use it in different other components. So next. And I will be picking some articles by hand at this moment. So let's pick a multiple of them. So let's go for multi-option. And as a source for this multi-option, I will go for stories. And in this case, it will be articles. Makes sense. So save it. And that's done. I already set up my component for that. And if I go back to the home, I can already create, use the featured articles. I can add it here. I can even pick my articles. I can save it, publish it. I can check in my JSON that there is those articles, featured articles. Yeah, of course, there's too many features. So here's the component, and there's my UIDs of my articles, right? So I get them, but I don't see them. And the reason I don't see them is because I still didn't create the component the next. Still the same. So hide the left side and let's show the component of the featured article very quickly, and I will just go very fast through. So here, the same approach, I'm getting my block, my data. Here, I'm rendering basically some title, which I forget to add. So we will have to fix that. Then there is a bunch of styling from the tailwind. Then I'm looping through my articles that I just added there and rendering a component called article teaser, where I'm sending the content of that article, of course. So what is the article teaser here is, of course, here defining the article teaser component. And this does nothing else, just render a resized image, render the title, intro, and outro, plus some tailwind styling. Cool. And what does this resized image function is just using the storyblock image service to just resize the image to 300, 250. Very simple. So last thing we need to do, of course, is also import those two new components we just created. So featured articles and articles teaser. I can save it. Now we should see them. If it's everything correctly done and there is no error. So what's happening at the moment? Did I did featured articles, featured article teaser. So there's a typo apparently. So yeah, and I did wrong the page next unknown featured articles. Articles. Virtual DOM is done. Okay, of course. I have a typo somewhere. Sorry. This is the problem of the live coding, as always, because I have the featured articles here. And now I'm really confused. Give me a second, probably. I just named it somewhere wrong in storyblock, and yes, I did it here wrong. So here should be right. I have to rename it. So let's back to the home. And now it's working. Great. So that was a typo, of course, on my side as I was typing. And here you can see that this is this missing title. So this is the yellow area here. So let's fix also that part very quickly to define schema. I just need to add a title there. We're almost there. So great, it's text, it's okay. So let's save it and let's fill some value there. Featured articles. Right, I could save it. I can already like play with that, like reorder it, and you can see even that it's changing the order. So Storyblok is the first. If I now move it to the last part, and the next is Storyblok is the last. So the last question you would probably have as a developer is like, how is it possible? As I showed you in the publish JSON on the bottom, I just getting the UIDs, and I'm not sending the data here. So what I'm doing in the Storyblok, in the next, is that I also in the index file telling to Storyblok like I need some result data. So here in the first increase call, I'm just also sending like, hey, please could you resolve the relation that if it's the component called featured articles and there are some articles, please send me the data of the articles instead of the UIDs. And the same thing I'm doing here in the Storyblok bridge, where I'm basically resolving those data. So sorry, here this function here, the resolve relations, which I'm like defining that featured articles should be resolved as the content. And then using this, I can see the live browser and my editors can edit. And I like this because at the end, if you are working with the atomic design and the component-based approach, you basically can create like stuff like browse the parts like DOMs or SEMs, articles. And then you see that there were like 2 articles from Samuel and the one from Dominic. So I can like remove the Dominic's one. And then you see only, of course, I hit it wrong one. Yeah, no. So you see only the SEM's articles. Then you can just reload it as you need it, save it, hit the publish, the webhook is triggering the deployment process and everything is deployed. So this was very quickly the demo with Storyblok and the next and how to create the application basically. And this was like really like a sneak peek that if you want to like finish it by yourself, then you can go to storyblok.com tp/nag.js multi-language website tutorial, or easily go for Storyblok, storyblok.com/tc/nag.js, where you can also like rewatch this video one more time and basically also like read a lot of tutorials about the nag.js. How to start with nag.js and how to start with Storyblok, or even if you are like the React fan, then go for the same thing with the nag.js and the React, and you can have the same experience with the React one. And lastly, in my presentation, I would like to thank you to the team, because I'm only the pretty face behind the presentation of all this cool stuff with nag.js and Storyblok, but there's like big team working every day on all these features. And if you want to like make them happy and like show the love to them, then go and follow the Storyblok, and we are happy to like deliver to great content. And I would like to also thank you to Vacuum Labs the opportunity to speak here to you. And now, if you have any questions, ask me now, or you can also ask me on the Twitter. My DMs are always open, and you can go to Samuel.co and you will find me there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. I have to say that it was really fast and it was really furious. So I had a hard time to keep up with the tempo, but I will check it out also later for sure.
Yeah.
Let's check out the questions. There it seems to be that there are none currently. So I will ask one by myself, and this is about more about product than the technology. How does it compare to some other e-commerce systems? Because, for example, I have to say that we are always looking for some simple block system which will be editable by non-programmers, and there is some contentful. Then there we decide that we will do it by ourselves. Then we will try some different solution. So it's always just switching from solution to solution. So how does this compare to the competition, which is quite fierce in this field?
That's a good question. It's like I just have to think to say it nicely. No. What I want to say is like against the competition, we have, of course, there's a visual editor. So that's something you can connect with any technology you want. So React, Vue, Svelte, PHP, and any others. Then we are the headless CMS, so content management system. It's like what we are focusing on. And as a content management system, we are maybe a cloud-based, but also for the developers, we have a big value for the developer experience, because all of our basically ex-developers are still developers. And we have the stuff like management API, so make it easier for you to create those stuff. So all the stuff I was showing, for example, by clicking, you can do also like by your own scripting. So we have a customers, they build on top of our CLI, even their own CLIs, and automate so many tasks that they can just create basically the whole project, just clicking by few command lines, and then just hitting the enter, and already like the React component is creating the code base, and additional to that is like set up the code, also the component in the story block. So this is, I think, like something is huge, and of course like tons of other features that I would be like another presentation probably for.
Yeah, you have to find by yourself and just try it out. And when you mentioned the PHP, the Svelte, and also some other frameworks, what technology do you support regarding the loading data from that CMS? So I'm not sure. In your presentation, it was some JSON loaded with REST. Is there any other way how to load it in your application?
Yep.
For example, for people that prefer GraphQL.
Yeah, we have also the GraphQL. I mean, the GraphQL was released last year. I was always like encouraged to REST API, because the REST API is also supported with all the packages. So if you go for React, then you can just install the package, and you don't need to know what's happening basically there. But if you want to do exactly like do some crazy loading and do some other application stuff where you need a part of the components or like the stories, then exactly for that there is the GraphQL, which we are working a lot on also this year on it. So there will be like version 2 of REST API even this year probably, and with that we cover all the needs of today's developers. REST and GraphQL is what is need to be covered, I think.
Yeah, pretty much these days. Maybe some SOAP system for some legacy businesses, you know.
Yeah, maybe it's true, but yeah, we hope that they should change.
Yeah, definitely, yes. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation again. People will have to watch through it once again on half the speed for sure. And
sorry for that speed.
But there was a warning in the title that it will be fast and furious. But that was really insightful. Thanks a lot, and also providing the links and materials so people can check it out later. It seems to be done very nicely. So thanks again, and we will wrap it up for today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samuel. So for the rest of you who stayed with us, we believe that you love the talks as much as I did. I will just remind you that you can join our Slack channel, Reactive Online Meetups.slack.com, where you can ask some questions. You have seen that Samuel has a really nice blog about it, and there are different means how to contact him. But there is another option on our Slack, so check it out. Also, we will inform there about the next meetups, which will be taking place sometime in the future. And also, I would like to ask you to provide some feedback for us. You can do it in the Slack, and it will be highly appreciated. Even if you have some ideas for the talks and topics, please do so. We are interested in what you are interested. And with these wise words, I would conclude this talk and this meetup. So that's all from us. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back soon. So have a great evening. Bye.